Okay, so we've CPS, child custody evaluators. What about the attorney ad litems and the amicus attorneys? Can you speak to them?
All right, so I'm a little jaded. So, analogy again, because it was good for Christ. So, some people go into teaching because they want to change the world for a kid, right? They go in, they get trained, they get the degree, or they get the emergency certification. They go in, they love kids, they want to change it, and then they find out that the school system is a bureaucratic mess that has nothing to do with really addressing the needs of kids. It's a money-generating machine. And the vast majority of what we do in our public schools is actually, again, antithetical to what we know is best for children. It is the complete opposite. And so I'm there for a little while, and I'm typically younger, and my soul is crushed within a couple of years, and I go find something else to do. Or I adapt to the system and just continue with the fraud because I want to retire, even though the TRS retirement system is horrible. It's worse than Social Security, so you're really screwing yourself. Anyway, so I either leave because I have morals, or I adapt to the system and ignore the unethical stuff that happens every single day. Attorney ad litems. There are some I know, and I've recommended, there's one I know that I would recommend to anybody because she's an amazing person, basically lost her private practice for representing people.
Why don't you mention her name?
I don't know if she'd appreciate it.
Okay.
But she's amazing. And she'll do a lot, not that, but she will. If you can't pay, she's still going to represent you. And I've known her to say, hey, if you ever get to a position, send me a check. That is a unicorn. That is something you almost never see, and if you do, you're not sure you really saw it. The rest of them are often struggling. Again, remember, this is a niche, so it's always the same amicuses. It's always the same ad litems. It's always it's like this churning. It's like being a public defender. Your name comes up, you get paid. Your name comes up, you get paid. And so for a lot of them, they haven't really established their practice, or they were working for a firm, something went sideways. Now I'm out, and I'm trying, whatever it is. And so I do amicus work. It's like being a public defender. My name comes up. But if you're an amicus who does what the court wants you to do, you'll get a whole lot of jobs in that court. That list, they're supposed to go down a list, and whoever's at the top, they assign. So my case, they didn't assign that. That's just not the way they went. Makes me wonder, why did you pick this? Because it says you're supposed to, the Tarrant County rules say you're supposed to go, and who's at the top of the list? That's not happening. Anyway, let's not get bogged down with stuff. So the more popular they are, the more cases you will get. So some of them I think are like that teacher. I want to help these kids and eventually figure it out. And others, they just need the money right now. But for the most part, I do not know, and I'm sure there are some. But I don't know an attorney who has an advanced degree in child education and a law license. So when an amicus, because if you read the statutes, gosh, what is it, 17.0 point whatever? I was actually reading it today, of this family code. It tells them what they're supposed to do and that the recommendations they're supposed to make. But how can you make a recommendation if you do not have a knowledge base? That's like bringing someone from the Amazon who doesn't speak English, and you have a child. This child is going to die if they eat peanuts. They have a nut allergy. And you're going to make that Amazon person who speaks no English and has never known a nut allergy, because I don't think they even have them there, in charge of feeding this child. But we take someone who has zero, and then we rely on them, and they come in and make a recommendation to the court. Courts often follow, but they know nothing about psychology, child development, or anything else.
I've always thought that they should be challenged based on their lack of education.
I wrote a very interesting letter to one actually yesterday. I ended at 1 in the morning. And I have no idea. But the way I read the code in the law is that you have to, amicus is an ad litem. So the difference is an amicus works for the court, not the child. An ad litem is responsible to the child. I don't want an amicus. I want an ad litem. But even there, I run the risk of
an ad litem that knows nothing,
or being in the pocket of the judge, or hoping to get a job at the law firm of the opposing counsel. Who knows? But they have more responsibility to the child. But they are covered by immunity for their actions unless, boom, 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 reckless disregard, malice, and I can't remember the other.
Which you can never prove.
But I just happened to need to write a letter to an amicus today.
Yeah.
So I informed her very succinctly of my qualifications, my background, my expertise, the fact that I've been recognized multiple times as an expert witness in this area, on and on and on. Made it very clear, very, very clear, probably so clear that she's going to be pained when she reads this. And then I made sure to mention that you have none of this training. So could you please explain exactly to me how you would come to your opinion and assessment and what instruments you will use that are valid and reliable, because I'm way more.
Right.
And so,
yeah.
So when you give that opinion, I will know. But if you choose to act outside your expertise, being a lawyer,
right,
and step into the field of someone with a psychology doctorate or a psychologist, I'm worried that you might be stepping out of your immunity, because that would be reckless behavior on your part to assign any sort of diagnosis, make any sort of assessment on attachment.
That's a very interesting, I love it.
And so,
reckless behavior because you're not operating within your area of expertise.
Because I believe anything a judge does from the bench, they're covered under absolute immunity.
So, and this is another thing, because a judge, like there's a judge in here, Brett Hall, he said, well, I had to do this. That was what the legislature said. I said, that's not what the family code said. No, because all judges want to say they have discretion, but then all of a sudden Brett Hall says, well, I don't have any discretion. I had to do it. Well, wait a minute. Then you're not acting as a judge.
Well, and often judges will say they have discretion, and you'll find a local appellate case that says you do not have discretion in this area and do not do it. But if you don't find that case, you'll never be able to hold the judge accountable. And even when you do find it, they'll still take it to appeal. They'll overrule it, but then nothing's going to happen to the judge, and you spend another 20 or 30 grand.
Yeah.
But if it's my understanding, I'm a judge, I've got immunity, I can act, I can commit crimes from the bench.
Right.
But if I step outside of my jurisdiction, if I go into the back and fire a girl because I don't like her shirt, I'm no longer acting on the bench. It's an administrative thing. I lose my immunity, and she can sue me. And so I've always wondered that if, as a judge, I look at you and say, you are committing parental alienation, now I've taken on the role of a psychologist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was interesting. I was just recently listening to a case with Judge Kate Stone out of Tarrant County. And it's kind of like, she threw the term parental alienation around. Oh, okay. Is this a case of parental alienation? And the first thing, and I was on another case recently where they were talking about parental alienation, reunification. I said, they don't understand even what reunification is. When a father and a son want to be together, there's no need for reunification. Reunification is against an alienated parent. There's no alienation taking place.
Well, and reunification therapy.
I know. I'm not going to get into that.
There's no scientific. There's no body of research that shows it's anything. It's like rebirthing in the 70s and 80s, where they'd wrap people up and have them act like they came out of the womb.
Yeah, I know.
And then they killed a bunch of them. It has no. It's about
ridiculous.
It's about as scientific.
Right. But the whole thing is that they'll throw a term around now like, well, we know about this because we've just used the term.
Or we know about it because we had a 2-hour CLE extra credit legal credit hours, and it sounded great, so we're going to use that.
And I'm saying to myself, I will tell you right off the bat, I'm not an expert. I've read about some of the stuff, but I can detect in a moment's notice, they have no clue what they're talking about.
None.
So they're acting way outside their area of expertise. But it's almost like by saying this word, like we're going to be.
Well, and back to and this is just a question I have. I'm just thinking out loud. Mm-hmm. So, take me out of the child custody family disgusting law center. Mm-hmm. So now I work for a major Caterpillar and make engines, and we're having a dispute over a patent of a part or something. So I'm still in a court. Judge still has immunity.
Right.
And this judge says, you know what? I'm going to order you to hook the fuel line directly up to the carburetor and into the whatever. I don't know anything about engines.
Yeah.
But that is going to make the machine explode. I know that. It's going to cause a fire. It's going to blow up. It's going to kill people.
Right. And
if I don't do it,
you're in contempt of court.
I'm in contempt. So I go do this, and all of our, no offense, Caterpillars, Peterbilt, whoever, they start blowing up and killing people all over the country.
Right.
I believe that judge would be held accountable for stepping outside of their area of expertise acting as some kind of mechanical engineer,
Yeah.
they would probably lose their job, and you would probably be able to sue them in federal court for damages.
Right.
So when a judge, now all we're doing is supplanting,
Yeah.
change that to children,
Right, I know
and
where
change
you're
me
going.
to psychologist, that's the exact same act.
Yeah.
And I wonder if anyone's ever addressed it from that point of view.
No, that I would love to see it happen. I think that should be done completely.